Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some stocks on the move today. I'm Tim Stenovic with Emily Grafea. We're joined by Bloomberg News equities reporter Natalia Konijevic. Bank of America. What's going on with Bank of America?
Yes, we had a big scoop today from our colleague Sridhar Natarajan, as well as my team member, Anthony Hughes. So they reported that Kuwait Investment Authority sold the 3.1 billion stake, according to people familiar with the matter. The stock was down by 3%. Ticker is BAC, as we know. We know that this wealth fund has been investing in Bank of America starting from 2008. But now it kind of follows this pattern because we know that another big investor, Warren Buffett, also reduced his position in Bank of America. We also see downgrades. We saw that HSBC is turning a little bit more cautious on some of the biggest U.S. banks, including Bank of America. What is interesting is that we know that up until recently, U.S. financials is one of the top performing sector on a 6-month basis. Last week, I just wrote a story about hedge funds buying U.S. financials at one of the fastest pace in the last decade. That was the second biggest volume of shares purchased. We saw that institutional investors are becoming more optimistic because of like some fundamental reasons and stuff like that. However, we see moves like that, and we will see how it plays out.
Yeah, not every institutional investor wants to still be in this stock. That's interesting that the wealth fund's backing goes back all the way to the financial crisis. They were really holding on to that position for quite some time.
Yep.
What else are you watching?
CoreWeave, the stock is down by a little bit more than 5%. The ticker is CRWV. It was downgraded to neutral at Stifel as well as Mizuho. So they see a 90-day downside catalyst because they see some downside momentum because we know that lockup period is expiring in August, and some analysts are saying that the options market is now pricing in the stock price at around $120. Now it's trading at $150, so it could be potentially a really big downside for the stock. But overall, we know that CoreWeave is up by almost 280% since its IPO in March, guys. So, of course, we know that one of the biggest latest developments is that CoreWeave is buying this Core Scientific. It will give it more access to power. And this is one of the reasons why some analysts, at least near term, are turning a little bit more cautious on the stock.
Finally, a decliner.
A big decliner, Sunrun. Yes, Sunrun ticker is RUN. A lot of volatility in solar stocks. We know that the latest move comes as U.S. President Donald Trump called for new rules that would restrict access to tax incentives. Basically, he's saying that the U.S. Treasury Department should be a little bit more strict when it defines what the beginning of the construction means. When I chatted with a couple analysts, they said that basically Trump wants to make it a little bit more complicated for those solar companies just to prove that this is the beginning of the construction period. And of course, it depends whether they get or not those tax incentives. So this is one of the catalysts. We saw a couple downgrades. Analysts are turning a little bit more cautious. So a lot of volatility in the solar sector.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.